Hello, and welcome back to XNC News. Tonight, we'll conclude our coverage of the Scopes trial, informally known as the Scopes Monkey Trial, in Dayton, Tennessee. We'll do this by giving a general summary of the trial, the events preceding it, and the aftermath. We'll also give some very important quotes about the trial. Now, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Seeing as this trial is about creationism versus evolutionism, and I am a creationist, I believe that I can be fair and balanced towards both sides by hating them both equally. The story of this trial begins with a conspiracy at Fred Robinson's drugstore. John Scopes had been a substitute teacher for a biology teacher. A law had recently been enacted, an act which prohibited the teaching of the evolution of mankind in public schools in Tennessee. The act was called the Butler Act. The ACLU was offering to pay all expenses of a teacher willing to test the act in court. John Scopes, a substitute teacher, agreed. He actually coached his students to tell the people in court that he had taught them evolution, even though he actually was not guilty. Seeing as the Butler Act only made the crime a misdemeanor and it was a minor fine, Scopes faced no jail time and no ridicule from the public. From the beginning, John Scopes enjoyed what has been considered one of the greatest legal teams ever assembled, especially for a misdemeanor. His chief lawyer was Clarence Darrow, a proclaimed evolutionist and someone regarded by many people as one of the best criminal attorneys in all of American history. Darrow was backed up by Dudley Field Malone, who the lead prosecuting attorney, William Jennings Bryan, thought had given the best speech on any subject that he had ever heard. Pretty special, right? And those two are backed up by two more lawyers, one of them local, one of them from the ACLU. Now, initially the defense was planning on being led by H.G. Wells, writer of The War of the Worlds, who declined the offer. Talk about a novel idea. The prosecution, as mentioned before, was headed by William Jennings Bryan, a creationist and great politician and speaker. Although it's probably important to point out that he actually had no practice in legal suits. The rest of the prosecution was made up entirely of local attorneys, which is probably good. The trial would last 8 days, and there will be no closing arguments. The trial is primarily remembered for clashes between Bryan and Darrow, although it was actually planned to be testing the constitutionality of the actual law. At the very beginning of the proceedings, if you can call them that, the prosecution entered the King James Version of the Bible into evidence. That pretty much screwed over the defense. But I'm going to keep going anyway. At one point, Darrow actually called William Jennings Bryan up to the witness stand and questioned him. The discussion became incredibly heated, and Bryan actually ended up admitting that the Bible could not always be taken literally. For instance, he took the 7-day creation story provided in Genesis and said that each of the days was actually an epoch of time. He also said that humans were not literally the salt of the earth. Thank goodness, I don't want to be made out of salt. See what I say, though? He's stupid. He ran right into Darrow's trap. I mean, come on, you gotta be better than that. Then again, Darrow believed in eugenics, and thus that what Hitler did was right. Okay, so they're even. See what I mean, though? Equal amount of stupidity. Darrow was held for contempt of court because he would interrupt the judge. A lot. After 8 days, Scopes was convicted and fined $100. The ruling was eventually overturned on a technicality. Apparently the judge shouldn't have picked the fine since it was over $50, but he did anyway. Can anyone do anything smart in Tennessee? Come on! And now for the aftermath of the trial. Alright, first things first. William Jennings Bryan died 5 days after the trial. He's really not lucky. But then when Darrow heard of this, he stated that rather than dying of a broken heart, as was suggested by the reporter who questioned him, that he died of a busted belly. Due to the large dinner that he ate the night before. Then, in a louder voice, Darrow stated that Bryan's death was a great loss for America. Scopes went on to graduate school on a scholarship raised for him by the Baltimore Evening Sun from the money it earned during the trial. Hooray! Nobody hates him! On to the quotes then. Here are the very few important quotes from the trial. Believe me, they're not that important. One important one is, I don't think about things that I don't think about. That was William Jennings Bryan. Another one, in reference to the great flood in the Bible, is, I think the fish may have lived. Other than that, I can't find any actual quotes without paying for a transcript, which my parents don't want me to do. So, without further ado, let's hit the credits.